Welcome to a Millennial's Guide to Real Estate Investing. Here is your host, Antoine Martel.
I have a guest today, Ray Marquez, who is a real estate investor in Tampa, who's going to talk to us today a little bit about wholesaling and how he got started in real estate investing. So welcome. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, man.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. So I guess tell everybody a little bit about yourself in terms of your real estate investing background and what you've done so far, and then we can kind of dive into them.
Yeah, so, I'm predominantly just a wholesaler out here in the Tampa area. Currently under a mentor. I've had a few wholesale deals now, and I started back in January. But predominantly, that's what we do. Obviously, my wholesaler does a little. My mentor does a little more. So I'm kind of just learning the things under him. But my position right now is just kind of, head of acquisition. So I'm going out looking at the properties, let them know what the. So a little bit of background on me is my company, or my family is a big construction company. And I think that's where my value is here. I go out there and really evaluate and give, good numbers as to what's going to be needed.
Yeah, it's important.
Right. And so I think that's where I'm strong at right there.
Okay. And then so what did you do before January? What have you been doing leading up to real estate investing, and what kind of made you want to get into it?
Yeah, so before, I've only been back in Florida going on 2 years now, and the year before this, I happened to just find a job which is it's like a steel detailer. So we put like the reinforcement, like all these high rises going up down here in Florida and stuff. And then through that, on downtime, I was like, man, what I gotta do? I gotta find a way of doing something else. Like, I do not want to sit behind this monitor all day, every day. And slowly started getting into seeing what real estate was and what it was all about. And I think I saw an ad where it was like, you can make money without having anything. I don't know, like those little wholesale catchphrases. Yep. And I was like, it just like sparked me, man. I was like, what is this?
And when did you see that ad? Do you remember?
Where?
No, it was actually like how fast did you start actually getting involved with real estate after you had learned about wholesaling?
Yeah, I saw that like in November, and I started diving into it. And I'm talking about every break that I had, the whole lunch hour, I was like just seeing more and more. And then by the end of November, I was already like on Bigger Pockets, had a thing, reaching out to like the big players, or so they were, like on Bigger Pockets. And then this guy like reached out to me like, yo, we have a Tampa, a real estate meeting thing, and we have a guest speaker coming out. It was like way across, like 45 minutes from me, and I was like, whatever, I'll go. And I went there, man. Wow. And it just so happened that they asked me to speak, like out of everybody. There's like 30 people in there. It's like my first meeting. They're like, hey, tell us, like, what do you do? And I'm like, yeah, I just kind of found out about this. But I'm like in construction. So then after the meeting, actually who's my mentor now was the one speaking that night, and he approaches me himself. He's like, yo, you say you're in construction, like your family? I'm like, yeah, we do this, pretty much all the exterior work and construction. He was like, oh, okay, would you be interested in like getting more familiar with this? And I was like, of course. And then that one thing led to another. He kind of was like testing, I guess, to see really how much, and kind of gave me like a scenario where he was like, okay, like this house, how much would it need? What's your estimate? Yeah. And I was like, well, shoot, this is like right up my alley. And I told him, and he was like, yeah, man, like, I think you have one of the things that, is like hardest to learn, kind of really giving accurate numbers. And so, I'm thankful that he kind of saw that in me. And I mean, it's been from there. That was December. And then come January, I was like active. Wow. I was like, it happened really quick. And I was like, wow, shoot.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, because it's awesome too, because you already had that knowledge, and that knowledge of somebody going and being able to walk through a property and already knowing what the value of that rehab is going to be and what that rehab budget's going to look like is a hard skill to learn. It takes some people, 50 or 100 houses and bids to walk through before they actually get the hang of it. But you come in with that experience and provide that experience and that knowledge to that mentor, who now you can take that time away from that mentor for that mentor to do other things. But it was also on you, like a great move to get right on Bigger Pockets and to take action and to go out to those networking events. I've met a lot of great people at those networking events too, and they're great places to find joint venture partners, to find mentors and stuff like that. And I think a mentor is one of the most important people you can find as well. And one of the easiest ways, and just the way you did it, which is what I tell people a lot of the times, is to go and find these mentors on Bigger Pockets. And there's so many people around you who are doing exactly what you want to be doing. Well, just ask one of those people to take them out for coffee, take them out for lunch, and share with them your hustle and your drive, and either tell them that you have the money, the time, or the knowledge, and one of those things is something that they're going to need, right? So great job for going out and finding that mentor and actually taking action with the knowledge that you have already, and now you can implement it and be part of this guy's whole ecosystem. So then I guess from there you went into this mentor's team, and then so what did you start doing for this mentor? And were you just his kind of boots on the ground guy walking around houses doing rehab estimates for his wholesales, or what role did he play?
Yeah, so and honestly, I think the first month or two were like kind of frustrating, because he really really wanted to get like the why. Like he's always I remember the first few months he was always like, you really got to find your why, like, because there's going to be times like this when it gets hard and you don't want to, you got to dig. And so for the first few months I was kind of just, he had a lot of trainings that he was sending me, hey, listen to this video and all this. But eventually, one day he just texted me. He's like, hey, Saturday I need you to meet me at this place for a training. And I'm like, all right. And then that's kind of like when I got my first real sense of like what it is that he, going out to see a property. And he was kind of like, just shadow me. If they engage in conversation with you, then answer. But, try not to answer. Let me kind of guide it, and you kind of just soak it in and how it's supposed to be. But after that first visit, I was like, yo, like, this is it.
Nice.
And so from that moment forward, I went on another, I don't know, 5 or so visits with him, and then kind of just soaking in all that I could. And then, he's like, all right, man, look, you have this property came in. I need you to, call this person, kind of build some rapport with them, and then see if you can set something up to go look at the property. And sure enough, man, we went, saw it, and everything was great. I gave them, I think we ended up getting that one under contract. We actually, the first property that I went to go look, we ended up getting under contract. But during our inspection period, we saw that there was a lot of termites, a lot of things. They just really didn't want to renegotiate a little bit, so it didn't go through. But I was really proud that on the first one that I went, I kind of gave, pretty good numbers. Not obviously, I couldn't see if there was termite damage, but upstairs. But so for now on, that's what I do. I go out, boots on the ground out here. I'm managing like four counties out here.
Awesome.
And that's it, man. I'm super busy, so I love it.
And so now are you doing this full time?
No. And that's the hard part. I still have my full time detailing job, so I'm there from 7 in the morning to 4 in the evening. But I mean afternoon. But and I'm sure it's all about getting the system down, man. Because within the break periods that we have at work and my lunch hour, that's kind of when I make all my calls. Yeah. And if I have any properties to see during the week, they're all, after 4. Yeah. And so it's hard. It gets hard, but I think it's just, wanting to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you really want to do something, you're going to find the time to do it. Right. So, but I think,
and it doesn't even bother you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like when you really want to do it, you're kind of like, yeah, man, like I got another house. I got someone else to call.
Well, it's exciting. Yeah. It's like you're looking forward to your breaks and your lunches and after work now. And, you're spending most of your day, paying the bills by getting that salary and that paycheck. But then, the rest of the time, your side hustle is eventually going to take over that job that you have right now. And that's going to be your main source of income. And that's the goal and what you're trying to get to, right? So you'll get there eventually. Just it's going to take a lot of hard work outside of those hours. But, that's what I like about doing those property visits, is that a lot of the property visits will actually be after 4 p.m. because I do a lot of direct mail and stuff like that too to try to get off market leads. And when I send somebody out there, typically that person who owns the house works from 9 to 5 anyways, and we need to come after 5 p.m. or at 5 p.m. So, it kind of lines up with your schedule. There's very few people who want us to come, midday to come and check out their properties.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so how is your mentor and you? What's the setup of that wholesaling business? How is he getting his leads in and stuff like that? Do you know?
Yeah. So when I first started with him, he's crushing the like probate leads out here, and for the most part, maybe like the first say up until May. May, up until like around May, he was really hitting those probate leads hard. And then, he was like, hey man, so I got a buddy down south who's really getting leads out of like the MLS. He's like, do you want to like kind of link up with him and see how he's doing it? And I'm like, sure. So I took a trip. Guy taught me everything. So now what I'm doing, like during my break times or my lunch hour, is I got this. We got a realtor who's a buddy of ours, and he sends me, these automated leads, and I'm just running the numbers on them. And if I see one that's close that we can maybe, offer something on, boom, we'll send something over. And so a lot of our, at least my deals now, are coming in from that, just straight off the MLS.
Okay. And you guys are just doing tracking the person's phone number, and then giving them a call and trying to schedule an appointment.
Well, no. I get the information. I'll send it over to our buddy who's the realtor, and we're like, hey, give this guy a call, see if they're willing to work with we're cash buyers, and so he'll set up the appointment and everything, and then then I'll go out there and see it, and we'll go from there. So we kind of use our partner, our realtor partner, to kind of just everything go through him,
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, because that's not how I do it. I cut the realtor out of my flow. So I send the direct mail, and then, or whatever, I get the leads and I find the phone numbers, and then I actually call them myself, and I tell them, hey, I'm an investor, I want to buy your house. But I think that putting a realtor in place, while it makes your system a little bit slower because it has to go through one more person, and that's one more paycheck that needs to be paid out, right? But what it does, it creates some rapport. For some reason, people trust, well, it makes sense. Homeowners trust real estate agents more than they'll trust investors, which may be one of the reasons why, it's been really hard for us to get off-market leads, because we are, we're presenting ourselves as the investor and not the realtor. Did you ever test it as you guys just coming in as the real estate investor?
Yeah. So sometimes, just make that cold call over to the realtor and let them know, hey, we're cash buyers. Hey, they always come with the, well, how'd you get my number?
Yeah.
And all that. But it was working. It was working good. But, I don't know, my mentor was like, we're just going to start going through Pete, which is our realtor. Is like, we think it's just going to be a little more smoother on that part of it, on them not being so, I guess, defensive off the back.
I agree.
And, but there's, and I get it, because it definitely does cut off that defensiveness from the sellers, though, because you would get a lot of, oh, you're an investor, and off the back they're like, all right, we already don't want to do business with you. Yeah,
or you're just gonna give me a low ball offer. They would always say that, like,
dude. And I just called this up. I saw a FISBO sign, and I called him up, and first thing he hears investor, and that's right off the bat. It's like, I'm not wasting my time with you. Well, sir, you haven't even,
Yeah.
You haven't even said anything.
Don't know what
I know.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And then, so how many deals have you guys completed then since you started in January?
Yeah. So we've got now 3, which I think at this point with 1 I'd be like still really happy with.
Yeah.
But I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah.
I think the first deal that I had was probably the funniest, though. It was just awkward. Not awkward, but it was like not the typical deal that I expected after like, seeing what wholesaling was all about and stuff.
Yeah. So I
And
guess walk us through that deal. How did that first deal look for you, and what were the different aspects of it?
So the first deal happened that my mentor actually got a lead, and he sends it over to me, and he was like, Ray, I need you to look into this one. Here's the phone number. Get the details from the person that sent it to him. So I called this guy up, and he was like, yeah, so it's pretty much just a vacant land. And I'm like, a vacant land? All right. I mean, what's the asking price on it? I was like, oh, all right. It's like half an acre. I think they're asking for like $5,000. And that instantly I was like, $5,000 out here for a piece of land, like half an acre? What? That's a deal already. Right. So I call a lady up, and then she's like, yeah. So I kind of start asking questions, why are you selling it and all this? And one thing led to another. I mean, they were getting divorced, and they had initially tore down their house that was really on it, wanted to rebuild a new one, but they got a divorce, and now they were trying to sell it. And that's it. I mean, the lady was like, the only times that I can show this land to you are between 8 in the morning and 10 in the morning, because she was like a nurse or something. So I'm like, gosh, I can't make that. And so I told my mentor, and he was like, you know what? I'll take care of going to see this one. And he went, and later on that day, he was like, hey, we got it under contract for the $5,000. I mean, it's a heck of a deal. We can't let that one go. So then he was like, your number one goal right now is to find a buyer for that. Awesome. And sure enough, I mean, within a week and a half, I was just talking to my father. Obviously, like, we're in the construction business. He was like, yeah, man, so-and-so is looking to build, and that's what he's buying right now is land. And then I was like, well, give me his number. And I called him up, and we set something up, I think, for like a Saturday at like 2, and the guy never showed up, man. It's like,
oh my God,
2:30, then it was 2:45, and I shoot him a text, and then next thing you know, I'm still out there waiting. It's like 3:15, and I'm like, yo, I gotta go. And so the embarrassing part to me was calling my mentor and telling him, like, yo, I know I told you that this guy was like really about it, but he just stood me up. Wow. And so my mentor was like, it happens, dude. Just maybe he'll call you back. I don't know. Life happens. And sure enough, I get home, and he was like, calls me up. He's like, Ray, like, I'm on my way right now. I'm sorry, like this and that. And I'm just like, hey, I had another property to go see. You're more than welcome to look at it. Let me know what your thoughts are. So he checked it out. He was in that same night, that same Saturday night. We emailed him the contract. He signed it. And then Sunday I was picking up the earnest money check. And then I was like, sweet, we're going to close this Friday. Well, that Friday ended up turning to like close to like a month and a half, because the sellers ended up having like liens, all crazy liens on it. And, thankfully the title company like really worked with us and ended up clearing it all. And so we finally had it. But yeah, like I said, I didn't expect my first wholesale deal to be on a, just a piece of vacant land. I thought it was going to be like on a little single family house or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because I was going to ask you where you got your buyer from, but you answered the question. But, find buyers for vacant land is a very specific kind of buyer you're looking for. And you're looking for a developer or somebody who's like a land buyer who rents out the land to somebody else and makes money that way, or is like a land flipper or something. So how much did you get it under contract for to sell it?
Yeah. So we got it under contract at 5, and then we ended up selling, it was at 18.5. We ended up selling it to the guy.
18,500?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I mean, it was definitely good. I mean, the comps were coming out for like just the houses there. I think they were maybe like 80s, like 1980s, and they're rehab houses there were selling for close to like 180, in the 180 ranges. So there was one other new build, and that one sold within like a week of being up for like 230. Wow. And so this guy saw the numbers, and he was like all about it. And so it was nice. I mean, awesome. I was definitely happy.
And then are you and your mentor like splitting the profits in that sense? Do you have some sort of relationship like that where you get a percentage of every deal you close?
Yeah. And so we're going 50-50 on everything.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so that's how the first wheel deal went with the land. And then did you have the other two deals you did after that, were those actual properties instead of land?
Yeah. And so just some properties that were actually like right outside my neighborhood, and then it just happened to one of them. I came out and I saw it, and I'm like, hey, I called my mentor like, hey, these for sale by owners, like, you know, how do you go about these? And it was like, oh, I mean, you kind of got to like, those are a little trickier because you got to see, if the people aren't motivated, they're just not going to sell.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, one thing, well, even that one was funny too, because so like I said, I was always in construction site, and I had for a bit I had a stucco group. So we're out doing stuccos, and this lady whose house I didn't know, my father told me, was like, yo, that's those food trucks that go to like the job sites and sell hot plates at lunchtime.
Yeah.
It was like hers. So I'm like, no kidding. So I went for a jog and I saw her. I'm like, hey, and do you remember me? And she's like, yeah, I know you. I know your dad and all this. And I was like, man, why are you selling your house? She's like, man, I really my family's all in Miami, and I got to get over there. And then I was like, oh, I mean, do you mind if I check it out and anything? I kind of just explained to her what we were. I mean, she was all about it.
Wow.
And then she was like super motivated and all this. And then we started talking about the price, I remember. And she was asking for something like way outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, yeah. I mean, if you look at the houses they're selling, they're not really selling at that here in this neighborhood. But she was up in the clouds, and then it was like I was like in New York, and she called me one night, and it was like, hey, are you still interested? Like I was like, you know what, I'm in vacation right now, but let me give you my mentor's number. And sure enough, they ended up doing it while I was out on vacation.
Wow.
So that was actually pretty nice too, being able to, because you see all these people that have been in it for years, and they're like, there's nothing better than making money while you're away. And I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to be doing that for like 3 years till I can see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, it's crazy. Yeah, it is. I mean, once you have because you had somebody on the ground who can help manage the deal flow while you're away, right? And same thing if you own a business, you have your employees that take care of stuff that happens while you're gone or whatever it may be. And I was in, for example, I have a good example of that too. 2 weeks ago, I was in Hawaii for a week. It was like a really spontaneous trip, and I had 4 property closings in that same week. And
oh wow!
All I did was, escrow company sent me the documents, and I just went to USPS just one day and got it notarized and sent them off. Dropped them off in FedEx or whatever, not USPS, but went and dropped them off in FedEx all in one day, and kind of did an online notary and got them signed, and bam, I had sold 4 houses on my vacation, and I was like, okay, I can get used to this, and even while I'm away, I can still be handling my business and stuff like that. So yeah, it was pretty incredible. Whereas if I was if I had a full-time job, I would have to take vacation time, which means I wouldn't get paid at all. And there's you can't just be making money on your vacation if you have a regular 9 to 5.
Right. Yeah. And like that week that I was on, my company pays vacation, but I mean, I was like, okay, if it feels good, just getting paid your 40 hours a week while you're out, this felt even better.
Yeah.
I was like, shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So it seems like 2 deals kind of came from your previous relationships. Did the third deal come from somebody you had known already?
No. The third deal was actually just, which was crazy because it was like maybe 2 blocks down from where this one was. This lady that sold the lunch was, and I remember I was at work, and my mentor sends me a Facebook message and was like, "Hey, isn't this one like right in the area where this other one was?" And I look at it, I'm like, "Yeah, man, I know exactly where that's at. It's just 2 blocks down."
Wow.
And he was like, "You think you can meet me there? I'm gonna," or no, he was like, "Let me get all the details and then see if I can set something up for this evening." And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." So he tells me, he's like, "Hey, 6:00, I'll be there. So, come by." And sure enough, I mean, I ended up, we were there. And then, so this deal was actually, it was a short, if I remember correctly, it was a short sale. And it was from another wholesaler.
Huh.
And he just happened to, I think he was coming down to the day that he had to close on it, and he reached out, or someone somehow gave the information to my mentor, and we ended up, I think my mentor was kind of just came down to terms with, hey, how much were you looking, getting out of this? And I think the guy was like, if I get 5K, I'm good with that. He was like, perfect. Here's your 5K. Let me take over. We sat on that one for a little bit. I think close to like 2-3 weeks, but we finally ended up getting that one sold too. So it was it's funny now that I think about it and we're talking about it, because I think I heard on one of your other podcasts, I think it was the nurse that was on, and you were talking about how when you start wholesaling, you start looking at your area, because that's what you know those houses, what they're selling at. And so it's just funny that's exactly where they sold. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of wholesaling around you, is you grew up in the neighborhood, you have a house in that neighborhood. Let's say you bought or rented that house, whatever it may be, you still know what prices are in general, and what prices should be, and if that neighborhood's going up in value or going down in value or not changing at all. What shopping center is changing or what they're adding here and there, and all of that information online is actually very difficult to dig up. It sounds really easy when you're on the ground, because you hear from people at the grocery store, people, your friend group or your family friends, right? All that information kind of comes, and, oh, did you hear the mall is being renovated and they're adding a movie theater? But, it's hard to find that kind of information when you're looking at a very specific neighborhood, just because it's not publicized that much, and you would have to type, very specific keywords into Google if you wanted to find articles about local developments and stuff like that. So that's like the benefit of investing locally, and especially wholesaling locally, because you can portray that story to your buyers and your investors who are buying those deals. So for those 2 houses that you sold, what kind of buyers did you get? Were they local investors who wanted to rehab them? Or were they out-of-state investors? And then how do you guys actually build up your buyers list?
Yeah, so for these 2, they were local investors. Well, the one when I was out on vacation, that one was actually just another. I don't even think he was an investor. I think they just had the money and wanted to buy like a house, because when you talk to them, like, well, what are your plans? What are you trying to do? We thought they were going to fix it up and kind of bring it up to, it's top dollar, but no, I mean, it was a really odd guy. I remember him when my mentor told me about him. He was like one of those guys that, as many questions as you asked, you could not get what really he was like going to do with it. Yeah. But we're like, what, take it. But the other one that was 2 blocks down from it, yeah, he was an investor. It's actually, I just saw it not too long ago. It popped up on my automated emails. They actually put it at market.
Nice.
I think we sold it. I think we ended up selling it to him for about I think $130, and he did a few, fix it up here and there what it needed, and I think he listed it for like $180 or something like that, or a little more.
Awesome.
So that's and then buyers. I mean. So this goes back to a little bit to what I was doing before I started being like the boots on the ground, was building that buyers list. So he does a lot of like we have an assistant who runs all the the last cash transactions within like the last 4 or 3 months in a certain area. Yeah. So is that kind of what you do?
Yeah, I do that as well, and then I send those people direct mail actually and say, hey, I saw you bought a cash property here, wanted to know if you were interested in this property. So that's what I do. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so it's very similar, but we don't send out the direct mail. I actually sit. I remember those days. I come out of work at 4 and I'm on the phone from 4:30 till like 8, going through them. I mean, every number there is, calling, just cold calls. And that's how I build my buyers list. I just cold calls, like, yeah, all right. And I said, okay, let me, look into my inventory, see what we have, and I'll follow up with you in 24 hours with anything that I have. And, just shoot them like, hey, I got a buyer. They're interested in this. And, if he had something already that he needed to get out, would send it to him. And And till this day, I mean, I have at least out of all those calls, I think like at least 5, and that I talk to. I maybe at least once a month call them, see if they're still in it, and let them know, hey, I'm still looking for what you want.
And how many phone calls do you think you made to get those 5 buyers?
Shoot, man, yeah,
500.
Man, I think I'm in the ballpark, if not a little more.
Yeah.
If not a little more. But I remember that my girlfriend was like, "What are you doing on the phone all day? Like, who are all these numbers?" And I'm like, "Listen."
We checked your bill. It's double, Ray.
Yeah, I was like, "Shoot, man." But I remember the first one that I actually called, and it was like, "Yeah, I'm interested." It was like, and I remember I kept counting. I was at like call 250 or at least 200, and I'm like, God, at this point, I remember I texted him earlier that day, my mentor, and I was like, how many calls do you make till you hit one buyer?
Yeah.
And then he was like, Ray, you just got to keep pounding him, and there's no number. You could get lucky on your first one, or like you're down quite a ways. Yeah. But I found the joy in it.
Well, that's good.
Like I really didn't. I wasn't the type to just call. Like, I never saw myself cold calling someone that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, I'm like, hey, we don't have much action going on today. You got any buyers list that I can dial up?
Yeah.
And then he was like, sure, here.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's something big that is hard for millennials for some reason to get over is cold calling.
Yes.
I understand. And you probably felt the same way, but when somebody first told me, or like, a mentor told me, oh yeah, all right, it's time for us to call. I was working for a commercial real estate developer here in Los Angeles, and we were cold calling equity investors for millions of dollars, and we would do cold calls. And he was like, just listen to me for a week or two, and then you're going to start doing it. And I'm like, what? You want me to call for what? I'm like, hell no, I'm never doing this thing. And I'm not going to call somebody and, waste their time and ask them for $1 million, right? Like, I'm never going to do that. And he's like, no, you got to do it. One of these, you're going to call 100 of these equity guys, and we're going to get one who's maybe interested. And that's literally what we did. We had an Excel spreadsheet, and we would just cold call all day, follow up, send emails, create packages for our deals and all that kind of stuff. And that's how we found our investors for our commercial development deals. But even for the reason I ask is how many phone calls you make is because people give up after 25 phone calls. And you need to make 2,500 phone calls to build a base for your business, and even for me, when I was building my first real estate team out of state, I had to call for 3 months straight, and I would call real estate agents, property managers, contractors, and vet every single one of those people. And it was literally 3 months straight of me phone calling people. And I got super lucky. There was a new listing that came up in the neighborhood I liked in Memphis. I called the listing agent, asked him a couple of questions, and then I turned to my brother and my dad, who were helping me at the time. Will still help me today, but they were with me at the time, and I was like, I finally found an agent who knows what the hell he's talking about, And it took 3 months of calling agents on Zillow, reaching out on Bigger Pockets until I actually found somebody who was my fit. And this business is totally a numbers game, and you need to do a whole lot of numbers and reaching out and doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable, and like you said, find the joy in it, right? So I didn't want to make phone calls every day for 3 months straight to find my team, but I knew that eventually there was going to be that one person who fit my box,
right.
Or for you who is an investor who's ready for the next one. And maybe it may not be today or tomorrow, but that's the other thing too, is like keep reaching for that list of phone numbers you have for potential buyers. It's about reaching out back to them and the follow up too. If you call them and they say they're not interested, but they, maybe give you their criteria and you don't have anything, even though you might not have anything for the next 3 months, you should still reach out to that person and just stay in their mind. Their criteria may change. They may have done a refinance and have, $250,000 in cash now that they're ready to put into something, and they need to do something. And that's what I've found too, is that people's minds are always changing, and all their criterias are changing as well. And the follow up too is super important, whether you're selling or trying to get new buyers and projects.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The follow up is something that's a game changer,
Yeah.
and as long as you have something that reminds you, whatever. Like for example, we have probate leads. We still work probate leads, and there was this one. I was actually over in LA in February, and my mentor sent it over and was like, hey, follow up with this person, and we had actually scheduled an appointment for the weekend that I got back, and the lady calls me literally the night before, and was like, hey, like my brother and my sister are also on this, and we just don't feel like we're ready to sell. And I was like, hey, no problem. Thanks for letting me know before I came out.
Yeah.
And just last week, my mentor was like, hey, remember this seller? I was like, yeah. He was like, I have him here on the notes ready to follow up. Let's give him a follow up. And sure enough, I called her. I have an appointment to go see her.
No way.
And now they're actually like really motivated, and they're like, yeah, I mean, come on, check it out. Let's see, and let's put something together. So I was like, shoot, I mean, that's the perfect example. You got to follow up, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've had buyers say that to me. I mean, sellers say that to me all the time. That happened to me like 3 or 4 times where it was the mom owned the property, and then she was on the phone with me and she was like, yeah, I'm ready to sell my house for 25 grand or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll send somebody out. And then we would send somebody out. We would get the rehab bid back. And then I would call the woman who owned the property. And she's like, yeah, I talked to my kids and they don't want to move now. Yeah. And I'm like, I just wasted all this time and effort and blah, blah, blah. But, and that was something that I kind of messed up early on, was not following up. And there could have been a ton more deals that I could have saved, or, maybe something may have happened to their kids and they actually sat and thought about it a little bit more and wanted to sell. But you never know what's going on in people's lives. And the thing is, they're not going to reach out to you. You always have to be present and active in people's minds, because, trust me that these buyers and sellers and everybody who has information on the public domain is getting blown up left and right if they have their name on anything. And you got to be the one who keeps coming back and back and back.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the value, for people looking to start and having a mentor, because I'm pretty sure that I would have never followed. I'm positive I would have never followed up. I'd have been like, okay, that's a dead lead.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But these mentors that give you little tips like that, it's like, hey, just do that in 5 minutes, call back.
Exactly.
And next thing you know, it's a hot lead now.
Exactly.
So that's definitely the value in mentors, because they've been through it, man. Why do you have to go through it again? Through everything they have been through.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. How much time does it take? If they don't answer, it takes 15 seconds, and you leave the voicemail.
Exactly.
And you're done. And there was actually a Bigger Pockets podcast that was super interesting. This guy used to flip like 250 houses a year, and he would always call these sellers, and he would literally every other week follow up with them on Fridays, because Fridays were his slow days. And he would just every day, just the same list over and over. People would say, no, I'm not ready. No, I don't want to sell. And 2 weeks later, he would call again. Be like, hey, this is, Mike, just want to see if you want to sell your home. And they'd be like, no, don't want to sell right now. And he would call back. And he was telling a story of how for 2 years straight, he was calling this lady every other week. And she said, no, I'm never going to sell. No, I'm never going to sell. And she owned like 7 properties on the same street or whatever. 2 years later, and he had built a relationship with this lady, and 2 years in, he calls her one Friday afternoon, and she picks up. She's like, Mike, I need to sell my house. Like, my kids are moving, and I need to go be with them, and I'm buying a house in Miami or whatever it is. And she's like, I need to sell them. Can you just take them off my hands? Like, I need them gone in a week. And he's like, yeah, no problem. And he goes and he ends up buying all these 7 houses that this woman
wow.
owned. And it was just, again, that's just the value of the follow-up, right? And, that's a really extended version. But, following, that's what the pros are doing, and the masters are continuously following up with these people and putting a system in place to make it easy to follow up. And I'm not sure what you guys do to follow up, because I found it pretty hard to put it into my calendar or put a system in place to actually do the follow up. And so I've been using like a to-do list and kind of just putting it in a to-do list with a due date. But I'm not sure how are you guys keeping track of your follow up, if at all?
Yeah, so my mentor, he has his own system, which is Podio. I'm sure you've heard of
Okay.
Podio.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He uses Podio, and he has it set up. And I don't know how to work that stuff, man. He takes care of those reminders, but like me on my own level, so like I got a whiteboard and I have it in my room,
Nice.
and literally every call, obviously if it's a dead one and like no appointments even made, then it doesn't go on there. But if it does, and for some reason they're not ready, for example, like on this braiding someone, which I wasn't doing at the time, but now had it happened today, I would have just put it, follow up in 3 months, and give it another follow up. If I see that they're still kind of head like almost there but not quite, then I give them follow up in another certain amount of time.
Yeah.
If not, if they're really like no, then they kind of just start getting off the board. But yeah, I have a whiteboard that gives me my current leads that I need to hit, the ones that are iffy, and then to follow up with the ones that are under contract, and then my closed ones down at the end. So that's kind of how I keep my own.
Gotcha.
I think eventually, once I get a little more, I'll have to find another one. But for now, that's working really good with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And then how are you? So for the cash, you said you were pulling cash buyers list. What tool do you guys use to pull those cash buyers for your zip codes in the neighborhoods you're investing in?
Yeah, and dude, I honestly I don't know what he uses.
Okay, he just uses some system.
Yeah, he uses a system that he has his the assistant do, and then I get that Excel spreadsheet. I'll have those, but I'm not familiar with which system he uses on that.
Does that come in with the phone numbers, or do you have to do the skip tracing?
Yeah, no. So it already comes with all the phone numbers, and
okay,
like
awesome.
possible. I think you'll have like one name with like 5, and you got to call all 5.
Yeah.
4 of them will just be dead, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I know there's a bunch of different tools out there for doing that and finding, people whose names are on record, and then the system automatically finds their phone number. So for everybody listening, there's a ton of tools out there which do exactly what he was saying.
Yeah, and I know, like, I think it's the first time that I met him, he might have sent it to me, but I don't think I'll be able to find it.
Okay.
See if I find it. If I find it, I'll mention it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, because we can put a link in the description notes or something for people to check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. And then, so that's about what you've been doing. What's your goal now? So in 6 months, you've done 3 deals, so a deal every other month. And what's your kind of plan for scaling? Are you looking at what's your goal for this year in terms of business and the side hustle you have?
Yeah, so man, by the end of this year, I really have set it to just be doing this full time. I really want to get down to where, I'm at least being able to close a deal a month.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'd like to be to go in full time. I just don't want to rush it. You know what I mean? I want to see how it keeps going. But come the last quarter of the year, I'd really, and there's things that go into it. My company's being bought out, and you know how that goes when you're buying out companies.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a headache, but I think the way I'm going with the drive that I have and the work I'm putting in, I don't see that being a problem. So that's my goal by the end of the year. It's just being full time, man, and booking out my weeks with just properties to see.
Nice, awesome. So 1 deal a month, you think that'd be enough for you to live and survive?
No, that's just enough it'll be enough. Obviously we want more, but that's just going to be enough to get me to say, okay,
yeah,
I'll be comfortable leaving my 9 to 5 that I have right now.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, the goal is obviously get a little more.
Yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, it sounds doable. You're doing a deal every other month. In order to just increase that to a deal a month, you kind of just have to 10x what you're doing, right? So, the same buyers leads you can use over and over again. It's really just figuring out those sellers, and having a virtual assistant, which is maybe something you and your mentor want to think about, of a virtual assistant actually doing all those phone calls. Oh, but you have the realtor making those phone calls for you, because a lot of wholesalers use a VA, and the VA calls all of those names and numbers. So you can actually use that same system you're using to find those cash buyers to find homeowners who have lived there over 5 years and who, own their house free and clear, right? So, and then that can pull phone numbers, and then you can have a VA, or you can send all those to your real estate agent. I just don't know how much he wants a phone call, but you kind of can go through a stage one with your VA of calling those people and see if they have at least any interest in selling. And that would be a way for you to then scale. Because buying, using that cash buyers list and having a couple of investors for that neighborhood where you're finding those leads, they're going to keep coming back and back and back, right? After 3 or 6 months, whenever those projects are done. So, you need way less buyers leads than you do with the sellers.
But yeah, absolutely. And I know that for the probate that he does, we do have a VA, and she'll make those initial contacts and then just pass the information for a follow up with them.
Awesome.
So yeah.
And then how are you guys getting your probate leads? Are you guys getting it with that same system, or do you actually go to the courthouse, or do you do it online?
No, he'll make a trip down to the courthouse.
Okay. Awesome.
Yes. And I mean, sometimes if I'm able to make it out there, I'll make it. We'll just,
Yeah. Can you explain a little bit for people who may not know what probate is, or why we said courthouse?
Yeah. So probate is just like, for example, I guess like, if you, from what I see mostly out here is like parents that move down here, especially because we have a military base down. So a lot of ours come from that, like parents moved in closer to where their kids are now, and they bought these houses, and, they end up passing away, unfortunately. And a lot of these, the kids are left with this properties. And I think that's just primarily that's what it is. Like,
Yep.
It's left to you in some cases. And in most cases, people don't want this responsibility. They don't want this second house. Like, I ended up with this. What am I going to do with it now? And that's what probate is. And so we just follow up with them. Sometimes they get complicated because, like we mentioned earlier, they have 3 to 4 siblings, and one sibling wants to sell, the other one wants to keep, and this one wants that much, and the other one wants. Yeah, man, they get messy.
Exactly. Yeah, because the people who own the property pass away, and then those, they leave that property to their dependents or their children, right? And then that's why sometimes these deals go to court. Sometimes they're solved before they go to court if there's just one son or one daughter. But they go to court because there may be 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and everybody's fighting over what they want and what piece they want of the house. And like you said, it can get a little bit crazy. I bet on a lot of those deals, it's just like you guys call and you're like, yeah, we're never gonna figure this out. And sometimes deals in probate court can be in there for 6 months, a year, 2 years, just because everybody is trying to get what they want and is not negotiating at all with their other siblings.
Yeah, sometimes they can go for a while, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I've been trying to find a way to go, since I'm not local and I'm out of state. It's been a little bit harder for me to go to the courthouse. So I've been trying to find a way to get those courthouse leads. And I've actually thought about just hiring somebody on the ground who can go and do it, or something like that, or maybe hiring a local realtor to pay them for the time to go and pull those leads and actually reach out. And so there's a bunch of other ways, even if you're not investing locally, to pull those leads from the courthouse.
Yeah, and my mentor before I came along, that's what he was doing. Actually, at that time in February when I was over there in LA, he was like, hey, we really need to pull some the list from the courthouse in a county over here called Polk County. And I was like, hey, I can have one of my cousins do it. And he was like, good, tell him I'll shoot him a quick $50 to just go down there. And I was like, awesome. All right, cool. And that's so, awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Craigslist is another great tool as well. Some people actually, they've done that before, and you'll get a bunch of phone calls. I've used Craigslist for so many things out of state. I have them hang up bandit signs, do other yard work, or clean out properties. There's a ton of stuff you can do, and they have this section called just gigs in Craigslist, and you can have people just come and do manual labor for you at a really cheap price.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
definitely. I'd recommend looking it up if you need anybody to do something for you for one day or whatever it may be for a quick
Yeah.
$50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I mean, is there any, so coming up to an hour here, what's the best way for people to reach out to you if they have more questions, or, maybe somebody's local to you in Tampa and wants to take you out for coffee? So what's the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah. So honestly, just on my phone, I'm on it all the time, and I don't have a problem talking to people. Just anyone give a call. I can give out the number. If not, like definitely, I think I'm most active on Instagram.
Okay.
So
Okay. And what's your Instagram?
the Instagram is just what am I gonna give you? My full name or the at name?
The at name.
The at name, right? It's gonna be MUNDOPE. And I don't know why I haven't changed that yet, but I need to.
Mundo PE.
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Well, it's supposed to be like Moon Dope.
Moon Dope.
I guess it was cool. It was cool back in high school.
Moon Dope. I got
Half
it.
of my name, because my full name Ray Mundo. Ray
Oh,
Mundo.
okay.
You get
Moon
it?
Dope. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, there it
Okay,
is.
awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, and I'd love to have you back later on in the year and see maybe once you reach your goal and you're able to quit the day job and do this full time. We'd love to have you back, and thanks for coming on and sharing.
Oh, absolutely, man. I'd love to come back in here and then kind of just share what happened between now and the end of the year. Hopefully, you guys will hear me say, "Hey, I'm full time."
Yeah, exactly. Would love it. Yeah, again, thanks for coming back on, and we'll have you back later in the year.
Absolutely, man.
All right. Thanks.